You laugh.
Greetings and salutations. Welcome to number 70. This is the 70th episode of Waved Yellow. Gary, how the hell have I put up with you for 70 episodes?
You're getting old.
Yeah, I know I am.
What's with that thing on your head, bro?
Gary, you said wear the hat. I can like to have a hat.
Belgian strong ale. The post.
Gary, that's not nice. So, welcome to Anton Roux, new CEO, is that right? Chairman. The main man, the big deal, the head honcho, he who decides what happens at Motorsport South Africa.
How are you, Colin?
I'm fabulous, Anton.
Fantastic.
There's a whole lot of questions, and no doubt you know that motorsport people are hot and cold. Some people love MSA, some people hate MSA. Sorry to put you to this, but it's live. I've got some questions, and if any of you got any questions for Anton, write them in the thingy, and Gary will read them, and then we'll learn how it is. But you actually were in a race car this weekend.
Yeah, I was at the Mpumalanga 400 in Dahlstrom, and I was privileged to be with Johan van Staden and one of the FIA dusters that just came back from Dakar. Unbelievable experience.
And I watched the clip where you were blown away by the brakes. The thing that got me when I was in one of those is the way they just absorb massive bumps.
It's illogical, and it defies the laws of physics to see what you can actually do, how quickly you can stop, and how sharp you turn. And that's all a function of the magnificent brakes and the tire technology.
And that car, of course, Gary, was built by the world-class racing team.
Your connection.
My connection, Stewie.
Mr. Stewie.
Stewie, how's it? But Gary, let's just talk about some other racing that we were at. You had dust in your eyes. There was water.
No.
Dirt.
First of all, I fell up the stairs.
Gary moved a table from the bottom stairs.
That's why I got this thing.
There was blood and stuff flying all over the place.
Yeah, because I leak.
He leaks blood. He can't walk upstairs. I mean, he's like old and can't. And then Gary.
And then to top it all, he gets murdered.
I got smacked by a car, and then Gary.
The world carried on.
The world carried on, and then there was a race. And where are we, Gary? By the way, this is. How cool is it that our venue and location department have managed to sort this stuff out?
Yeah, we're sitting at the higher ground at St. Stithians. Is it a college? St. Stithians College.
For all you in Joburg, it's like Saints, but
where Springboks are born, in other words, down there.
Some of them.
Yeah.
The others
Only
are born
some
at
of them.
Cares.
Are you taking sides?
No, bro, it's like Joburg schools. There's rivalry. It's healthy rivalry. But new venue, Mark Berger, his son Erton Berger, his cousin Han Berger, and his nephew Cheese. They are great. They met us. They decided
You're making me hungry.
They invited us to. We needed a new venue because Gary, you can only do so much mug and bean. And now hold on. So we're here. What else happened?
We're off the caffeine injection.
Gary,
So we're into the reality injection.
check my ass.
Is this that time?
Gary, focus. Brew, we've got a show to produce. We've got the main oak in motorsport in South Africa here. Let's just do this stuff. So what happened?
I understand the classes. Who cares?
No, we do. So what happens? So I need my glasses because you know our production department.
So we end up for 4 hours racing, and number 1 and 2 cross the finish line 4 seconds.
Yeah, but no, never mind. 1 lap to go, and there was 0.4 of a second, or I don't know, less than a second in it. It was the most unbelievable, fantastic racing ever, even though it was Cape Town. So, Gary, what was your highlight of this? So the winner was an injured Ligier. This thing was injured in that. Go and watch the footage. Go to iLab or go to SA Endurance Series because they got a channel on their own, and you can watch along with the 25,000 people who watched it already.
Thanks for all those guys that viewed. I mean, 25,000 people viewed it. 17,000 people engaged, interacted, commented,
And there's a whole lot of comments going on. And some of them like...
Are we trying to impress the boss here?
Yeah, we are.
Okay, cool.
Because Anton, we just want to tell you streaming is the way forward for motorsport. So, huge shout out for Nick Adcock and Michael Jensen in winning that thing. There was a Python match. Go back and watch it. Gary, my worry is about Mrs. Jensen and her house in Beira in Mozambique, because there was a bit of wind, a bit of rain, and a bit of stuff. And to all you in Mozambique, our thoughts are, no, I mean, how can you say, oh, our thoughts and prayers? We feel for you, like, you know, you'll do it.
I got a picture for you.
Yeah.
Ruan,
Yeah.
who was your main cameraman.
What a boy. Did you see how that dude, he jumped out the way of the car and he hung me out to dry and boom!
Who's it, Colin? Your pit can Oppie.
So I'll tell you what, that act is frickin' proper.
He wants to know is does your knee still work?
China, everything works, eh?
Okay,
From the
everybody
top
else
to the
wants know
bottom.
why you're looking through your glasses so funny.
Because I can't put them on this, because this cap says something on it, and it's like, Gary,
Okay, so going back to reality.
the biggest surprise for me,
Two great things happened this weekend. Sorry, just before you go. Okay, we had the first round of South African cross-country championship went on, and Toyota.
and
Tuguzi,
who won it?
Who went and won it.
Who won it? The old man. Everybody says Janila's passed his sell-by date, but I'll tell you what, boom.
He's got a funny comment on you. I'm going to tell you online.
No,
exactly what he said.
no. You can do that.
Tell me what you think.
Everyone says that Janil's old and he's kunk. He hasn't got it. Dude, they put Henk in there. Henk's mental, and he's very, 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 very quick. But Janil is quicker. And you discount Janil at your peril. The guy is a machine. And he's got a good... They're not co-drivers. They're not navigators. They are co-drivers. Because, Anton, you would have known, the co-driver manages the whole thing and the driver just drives.
Yeah, he just puts foot flat.
Yeah, that's very simplified, but that's what happens, yes.
That's how we like to do it. Life's about do not complicate stuff. So Gary's dream came true, a 9-year-old dream of live streaming a proper racing event. We did it in 3 parts. There was a great team involved. Gary, you know me. There was a whole lot of people. The biggest man in the whole of motorsport, Greg Maloney, was anchoring it. I don't know how he does it, but Greg, hats off to you. So that was a great... my big surprise was that the kids, and these are the Angel kids in the Honda, they did so well in... before the race, I sort of had my doubts that they'd be able to hang it together.
Yeah, but they brought their car home, man.
They finished, and they won their class, and they won Index, and they finished fourth overall. It was an awesome performance for a bunch of hooligan retrobates. They just pulled together and just hammered it. It was brilliant to watch. Well done.
Put your comments on there, what you think about him, because he's just gone overboard.
No. I'll say hats off to them. It was a great surprise. And Gary, endurance racing is supposed to, some say, it's for the old farts. But actually, how's your sound going there? Is sound department screwing up again?
No, we got people out there. Gary, your mic's off. James, my mic's on. I'm back.
I'll tell you what.
Hello, anybody?
Sometimes Gary's mic off is magnificent. So you haven't got this thing going in your ear.
Do you know Evan Hutchinson?
I do.
He's the fastest oak in a what they call a Batmobile.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
No, he's watching.
Yeah.
I have no idea why.
No, Evan can drive. He's proper cool, and he runs a great team. He's about 3'7" tall, or is it 3'8"?
I think 3'8".
Yeah, definitely.
What
Evan
do you mean?
Hutchison, he's 3'8".
Evan, I've got nothing to do with this, brother.
All right, so the kids surprised me. That battle at the end. Go and watch part 3. Gary, you have tagged it because we broadcast the 4-hour race in 3 parts because Facebook says. But that last hour, it was a python. It was stalking. A python stalked its prey, strangled it, and they won. It was magnificent.
No, but it was brilliant. I mean, after 4 hours, the leaders crossed the finish line within 4 seconds of one another.
And then, okay, right, enough of that.
Yeah.
Moving on. Carl Busch in the M&M's car. Now, M&M's are the
okay, I've got nothing to do with this. It's all his.
The best chocolate in the entire world. I'm pissed off with Kevin Harvick because he hasn't won this year yet. But it's coming because he's Kevin Harvick and he drives a Ford. And I only like Fords in NASCAR and in Australian super touring cars, or whatever they call them. I don't like Fords in LMP3s and where they cheat. Because they don't cheat. They buckled
you mean in Le Mans?
In Le Mans, where they buckled the equivalency formula and they cheated so they could win on their anniversary. So Carl Busch wins 200 races in the National Series of NASCAR. Unbelievable feat. It's he's 34 years old. He says, well, hey, he could go for 250, but he's going to go for 300. Unbelievable. Right. Enough of that. That's what happened.
Okay.
No, the phone is fine, guys. Sorry.
Lane has just had another pit lane moment. All by himself this time.
Don't worry, nobody got... it wasn't my fault that the... No, it's all right, don't worry. There's just like stuff. Right, Anton. The new main man at Motorsport South Africa. Why? What possessed you?
Yeah, I think a couple of things. I've been a sponsor. I've been a team manager. I've been a competitor, not necessarily a good one.
No, hold on. You were a good competitor. You arrived. You played the game in the spirit. You gave your best. That's a good competitor.
But I love the sport. I absolutely love the sport. And I think there's a lot of good things taking place, but I also think we need a couple of focus in some of the areas. And I've got time on my hands, so I said, well, put my hand up and say, well, let's see what we can do to make the sport better and to make MSA more user-friendly.
Because you run a business, RS Automotive. You have one of the finest mechanics in the world. Sorry, Sparky Bright. But Piet Westerhout from ex-Opel Motorsport, unbelievable guy, a character of note, and he does amazing stuff with the cars in there.
Yeah, no, I'm really privileged. I've got a great team of guys where we mainly do Porsche restorations, and every morning is fun to come to work and work with these characters and some of these legends.
And there's a Mini that your daughter's building.
Yeah, that's been done. So all of a sudden it's a bit like a dog chasing a car. Now we've caught it. So now the Mini's finished and it's parked. But it was another fantastic experience.
Sorry, I'm just doing some housekeeping here because
is that the end of our script?
No, well, the book's gone. And hey, Gary, what I did was I downloaded the script that production sent me and the script writing department sent me. I've got it in my mind. Now,
your mind.
Having it
but
in
your
my
mind
mind.
is switched off.
No, Gary, it's on. It's like the sparks
Colin,
are flying.
Watch me. Watch me, Colin.
The shit that goes on in here is
look at the camera and tell the people out there, don't tell me.
Focus, because this is important. So,
okay, so
now
we finally got the comment.
So the Mini's parked.
Yeah.
The Mini's parked.
F. Colin. Sorry, Anton.
So the Mini's parked, and you got time on your hands. And luckily, I'll say this luckily, fortuitously, there's a gap at Motorsport South Africa. And you apply for the job, you get the job. Now what? What do you do?
So first of all, I didn't apply for the job. Some of the guys approached me and said, look, I have got no vested interest in any specific category or as a promoter or as a circuit owner or anything.
Yeah.
We had some discussions and it's been carrying on for quite a while.
2 Cokes. I don't want to be on
my first issue at this moment in time is really to try and take stock where we are in the different categories, whether it's the two-wheel guys, karting. We've also got some, spinning is getting more and more organized.
How spinning and like half legal drags?
Yeah, so there's so many new things happening, and I think there's in the past been too much focus by or just on off-road, or just on the circuit racing, or just on the bikes, and it's to actually try and get a balance
Thanks,
and to take stock of where we are. I think that's very important, and then we can put a peg in the ground and say, okay, where do we need to improve? That's number one. I think the second thing is you know, we've got over 10,000 racing licenses in South Africa, and we need to try and educate people who's responsible for what. So what's the role of the promoters? What's the role of the MSA?
Thank you for leading me into the next question is, you know, there's so many people, when something great happens in motorsport, it's nobody gets mentioned about who did it. But whenever anything goes wrong, it's always MSA's fault. I want you to tell us what actually is MSA's role in motorsport in South Africa.
Yeah, so obviously, I mean, it's on the regulatory aspects of it. I think what people very often forget is the liaison that's take place with the FIA, and if you want to participate internationally, not necessarily in the US in NASCAR, but your ticket to the FIA is via MSA. So it's got that role. It's also, you know, if you try and balance the motorsport calendar in South Africa, you realize how many events are in fact taking place, and it's becoming a very, very complex task.
I've got some issues with that, where you have some, and I'm just going to chuck it out there. You've got an off-road event, and there's a team that runs some vehicles in off-road, in the cross-country series, and they run vehicles in the endurance series, and they're on the same weekend. There are many other clashes. How do we avoid that kind of stuff?
You know, that is our challenge, and that's where we can't just look 12 months ahead, but we need to begin to look a little bit further than 24 months ahead. I mean, if you look towards the end of this year, we have got a packed calendar at the end of November all around the country. And we got to start being very, very selective. I think also that from time to time we might begin to say to people, no, we don't think that's the correct time for it because there's other events scheduled. And I think it's hugely unfortunate that where we had an event like, you know, over the last weekend where the people who prepare the cars have to decide whether they're going to be at an off-road event or they're going to be at a track event. We must try and avoid those.
So far, you've got like music to my ears, but there are really three legs that Motorsport South Africa stands on: licenses, calendars, and judicial or regulatory things. How, when people go along and they see a series that might not be doing as well as they could, and it's, oh well, Motorsport South Africa should do something. What's that relationship when a series is cock and MSA is there? Explain that, please.
So that is a very, very good question. So at the moment, I mean, we're trying to talk to a lot of the competitors in those series, because to kill it is not necessarily the answer. And from the point of view is that you've got a lot of competitors there who spend huge money to get to the point where he is. So my approach would rather be, let's see what can be done to make it a more user-friendly series and to rather attract more people into it, but then maybe get to the point to say to the guys, listen, if we are 12 months down the line and you can't get a full grid of 20 cars on the grid, then maybe we got to revisit this.
But do you think there really is we do need a premier series where you can turn around and say, this oak is the best race driver in South Africa?
You're absolutely right. I mean, there has to be some pyramid scheme of some sort to say that's the ultimate, and I want to be on top of the pyramid, and that is. And I think, but that could be a challenge to achieve, because we actually have got so many competitors at this moment in time. So there's a lot of club events and things taking place, but we do have to get to the point where at some stage we'll have to prioritize these and say, look, that's the top of the pyramid and these are the ones at the bottom. And if you want to be a competitor at the bottom, that's fine, but this is the route you need to take if you want to actually get to the top of the pyramid.
So I'm going to throw something out a little bit, maybe left field, or Gary, you know me.
A curveball.
No, it's not a curveball. It just
Is
might
it a
be.
bouncing ball?
It's an explosive ball.
You've got to be careful of his bouncing ball. Because he has no idea where they're going to go.
Gary, I don't even know where it's going to go. So, In my personal belief, democracy sucks. Because it basically brings everything down to the lowest common denominator.
This is Colin getting political.
Yeah, by the way, there's a new Purple Cow party. Check it out, because capitalism rules, but that's just my rant. So, Bernie Ecclestone was a dictator. But he took Formula One and Grand Prix racing from Mickey Mouse to mega. Do you not think that there's time for a dictator in South Africa to say, oi, stop this, do that, there's a vision, move on?
Yeah, look, Bernie
Touchy question,
Bernie Ecclestone got there because of the Concord Agreement he reached in France with all the teams when the Formula One was in dire straits. That empowered him or put him into a position to actually be a dictator. The challenge that I have is that
I'm for a Concord Agreement.
I'm an elected official without a Concord Agreement, and MSA is actually ruled by a memorandum of incorporation, which is determined by the members. So
who are the members of MSA?
So it's a very long and complicated issue. That
we got time.
No. But we may have to get to the point where we actually readdress the MOI and how the membership is being constituted. The challenge is for us, I think, as a start, is we need to define what is motorsport. And that's a very challenging question that I've been racking my brain on, because we all tend to focus on the drivers. But it is much more than the drivers. Who are the teams? Who are the employees in those teams? Where do the promoters fit in? Where do the circuit owners fit in?
Where do Gary and I fit in?
Well, exactly, the media. I mean, so I think those are things that...
microphone.
Hopefully things we can get to at some stage. And then we've also got some priorities that we need to resolve. One of the things that I really think we need to do is to focus on training of our officials and marshals.
Don't get me started on that. Especially Cape Town needs a separate training office.
Look, there's challenges, because if you look at our officials, they all my age and above. I can't think of a circuit where I've been, or any event where I've been, where we had a 30-year-old official.
That's so interesting, because if you go and look at some of if you want to be a marshal at Monaco, you've got to be under, I think it's 35, or it might even be 30.
Correct.
You've got to be fit. You must be able to run with a fire extinguisher. You must be able to do some stuff. But how do we get 30-year-old dudes or 25-something-year-old dudes who are keen on motorsport involved in motorsport? Because generally all the marshals in South Africa, we love you. We think you do fantastic work. We just need some younger ones. So how do we get younger people involved in marshalling?
So, if I think the question that I most often get asked is, how do I get involved in motorsport? Well, I got involved in motorsport just after school by becoming a marshal. I was a marshal. I waved a flag. I ran with a fire extinguisher. And I also got proper training. Now, that's going back 30 years. But that's where we got to, there will be some people that will never be able to maybe compete as a participant, but it doesn't mean you're not involved in the sport. And we've got to get people with a passion back for it. And I think the international events are a huge draw card. I remember when I marshalled at the last Grand Prix that we had in 1992, I think.
Who won it?
That I can't remember.
Gary, just Google. Last Grand Prix South Africa, who won it?
Me.
It was Nigel Mansell, wasn't it?
I won it.
In a Williams. And where Williams now?
Yeah. So, if you weren't allowed to marshal at that event, if you weren't at all the preceding events and you had the required training. So I think that's what we need to get back to. And
training, like how to use a fire extinguisher, how to stay calm and when panic ensues?
Absolutely. And I mean... I was at an event recently at Swartkops, and I look at the quality of the flag marshalling, and I've got some serious questions about some of the, of how they interpreted some of the rules. So I think we need to focus more on officials. We need to focus more on marshals, and through that bring in more people into the sport.
Are you excited about the future? Do you see motorsport on a growth path? And what are the 2 or 3 things that you believe are key on getting us growing?
Yeah, so I definitely see motorsport on a growth path. And sport has got the ability to unite all people in a country. We've seen that with the Rugby World Cup in South Africa, etc. Okay, so it's got an unbelievable ability. However, having said that, we also need more money into the sport. And more sponsors, but we are not going to attract sponsors, and I'm speaking as a former sponsor, where we have unprofessional behavior by team owners, by promoters, or just the running of events. Because as a sponsor, the last thing you want is your reputation to be tarnished in any shape, form or size. And I think that's where some of our challenges are going to be. It's the days of you putting a sticker on a car and putting a banner up and thinking that's sponsorship, they are long gone.
So we get questions and comments, whatever. Oh, I love motorsport. I'm driving go-karts, or I'm driving XYZ. Find me a sponsor. How do I get a sponsor? Anton, what are the 2 or 3 things that sponsors are looking for?
First of all, not to damage a reputation. Okay, now that sounds like a very strange question or strange comment, but let's just think about what happened to Tiger Woods and Nike.
Yeah.
Okay, that is the worst outcome for a sponsor for something like this to happen. Okay, so you want to build your reputation and you want to build your brand, and if there's any hint of negativity as a sponsor, and I remember as a CEO, I just pull the plug.
And that's quite brutal. It's a boardroom decision. Sorry, boom, we're out of there.
Absolutely. The next thing is, you don't knock on a big corporate today and you say, oh, I need a sponsorship for an event that takes place in April. These things are determined 12, 13, 14 months in advance. Rather approach a sponsor and say, listen, next year, July, I want to compete internationally. And do that. And the third thing is, what are you giving the sponsor?
Hold on. So just say that again. That last little bit. What are
you, as the competitor, providing back to the sponsor? If you're going to say to a sponsor, well, I'm going to put your logos on my car, he's most going to say, well, I can put my logos on a bus.
Or on a billboard next to the highway.
Or whatever. You've got to have a specific value proposition. And most probably, I think the draw card to me is that if you're going to have a name driving in the car, is that name person doesn't pack up, as soon as the checkered flag drop and go home, is actually then be at the disposal of the sponsors to introduce to their clients.
Now before Anton was involved with an insurance company, Aon, many, many years ago. They sponsored A1GP. It was some great times. And also, just on the A1GP side of it, there's a story about the logo. What was the most important logo on the car?
Well, to me, I always pick the mirrors as a position on the car. They are the smallest. They're the most value for money. And then obviously also inside the car. So if you look where your GoPros are positioned, and then it's much better to actually get the in-car footage with the promotional material on the inside of the car.
So the tiny little sticker, it's not about the huge mega thing down the side. It's about where that sticker is going to go, or the brand is going to be seen. But then you went on with Aon, and we move off from A1GP into Manchester United. And the big thing about Manchester United is they charge bucket loads of money, but they deliver in terms of bringing the stars to the fans. We were talking earlier. Just tell us a little bit about that.
So if you go to a Manchester United game, and you're in a box, say Ellis Park box or a Newlands box or whatever the situation is, you'll have a formal sit-down meal and there'll be a table for 10, but there's only 8 people. And 2 of the players that's not playing will actually come and join you. And it is their duty to be your host. So the players are actually trained to be hosts to the sponsors. they also retain all the former players and the older players to come to events. And those players or former players are at the disposal of the sponsors to assist the sponsors when they have functions for their clients.
So now imagine we can take this into motor racing. If you're looking for a sponsor, here's a free activation idea. Let's just, just acknowledge iLeb and hashtag waved yellow because we are frickin' awesome. Imagine if we could do this for some of the racing drivers where they hang, instead of just bolting back to their mansions, where they came and pressed the flesh and spoke to the people.
Absolutely. I mean, if you think about how many former racing drivers I see at circuits that are not driving, they're spectators who would love to share their story of, as you know, the older we get, the faster we all were. So,
some of us were faster we never were.
But to share that with some of your sponsors and to meet some of the legends, but that has to be part of your value proposition to your sponsors.
Motorsports, it's a mega industry, and it's there are many people who've raced for years and years. I'll try and liken it to a circus, and if you want to be a clown or a participant in the circus, some of us are clowns, others are just.
Speak for yourself, a holy one.
I speak great things, oh toothless one. So
that was nice, but I'll live with it.
I love you too, Gary. Gary's my boy. 70 frickin' shows, China. Well done.
Let me just
well
grab
done.
this again.
Yeah, because somebody might
I thought you were going to shake my hand.
So now we sit with. If we want the show to be bigger, what are the sort of things that people can do?
I wish I had the answer for that one.
Can we stop talking cock about racing?
Negative.
Yeah.
Negative.
No,
nonsense about racing.
Yeah, I think.
Listen to Gary, Uncle Gary.
Just think in everything that you do. We've had 2 large fuel companies in South Africa withdrawing out of motorsport in the last year, and I think it's an absolute tragedy. And I would love to go and sit with them and find out what their reasons is for.
But by the same token, you had another one pulling in.
Absolutely, but we should have kept the ones that left.
Yeah.
I've also looked, for example, I think what Total has done, for example, has been unbelievable in fuel supply to the National Off-Road Championship. What they've done there is the teams buy the fuel from Total, who take it to the circuit, but Total actually donates fuel. Not a money issue. And then the money that's being generated from that actually goes to the promoters of the event and the organizers of the event.
And the other thing that you've got a sort of a knock on is that you've got safety of supply and also parity of fuel for all the cars in the event.
Absolutely. Now, where these guys have seen a massive opportunity is we know that the price of diesel is not regulated. So they arrived with diesel as well and sold it at R1.50 cheaper than what anybody else would sell it for people who bought it at the event.
Anton, Total, they told us it was Total at the Toyota Gazoo Racing South Africa's launch. They are friends of ours. And we love the way that they integrate they think a little bit about their sponsorship and marketing and integrate it. And I think that's one of the... Do you see there's scope or opportunity for MSA to run how to market yourself in racing and sponsorship 101 and sort of the basics around that?
Yeah, I think the first thing that people must realize, MSA as an organization consists of 13 employees.
Some say it's many more.
Una, dos, tres.
There's
13 in front.
There's 13 employees. And that I think is some of our biggest challenges. Is we already know that competitors people are complaining about membership fees and so on, and it's a question of actually balancing the books. The other aspect that relates to it, where are they spending their effort? In which category of racing is consuming the most time within MSA?
And which category is that?
Well, that's what I'm trying to determine, because that to me, if I look, does it actually match the requirement and the need out there? Is it a question of the squeaky wheel getting the oil? Or are we actually treating everybody in the same fashion? Or should we pay more focus on another area?
And which category gives you the most? So there's a category that takes up the most effort, still to be determined. But you know already, which is a category that gives you the most, how can I put it, Gary? Poo.
Yeah, I don't think there's one that I can single out at this moment in time, but in my mind, if I look, for example, at the legal expenses that's being incurred in motorsport South Africa, I really question that. And I question it from the point of view, can't we have our regulations in a different format, that we can't have people running for nearly, small little matters ending up in High Court and Supreme Court matters.
Should we?
It's nonsensical to me.
What about, this is a crazy idea, okay? But sometimes crazy ideas work. So at each race meeting, you have a boxing ring, and you give the Oaks gloves. And if you want to protest, you must murder somebody proper, because 9 times out of 10, it's, oh, well, he bumped me, and then there's... And basically, there's 2 things the Oaks need to do. Grow up and have a big teaspoon of cement. And then for minor protests, just murder each other, and then you've solved the problem.
Yeah, I doubted of that.
We can sell tickets to it.
I think
it's a great idea.
Yeah, I think our challenge is going to be that most of the real issues don't happen at the event, it happen after the event. It's on Monday morning when you get a letter. So that's when the real fun starts.
It's 8th of May on Monday morning.
Don't talk to me about what's today, Monday morning or Wednesday morning emails and letters, because that's a freaking touchy subject. But, all right. Gary, you got questions?
Couple of people online.
From people?
First of all, there are people that think they know who you are. Yeah? Do you know Kevin Reynolds?
Yes.
He says, how's it?
He
wishes you all the best, holding thumbs.
Thanks, Calvin.
And then we got a guy, Sean Bester.
Yep.
Do you know him?
No.
Okay, he says he's sitting in Jacksonville, Florida.
Awesome
in
stuff.
NASCAR country.
There you go, my boy.
Go. How's it, Sean? And then, wait, there's another one, then, where's it gone? Ever heard of Ian Long?
Yes.
Okay, so Ian Long says, we have lost the show quality, bring back affordable prices, bums on seats, bring back thinking caps of corporate. That's his statement. I'm just giving you giving you their 2 cents.
I read a lot of these comments on social media, and yeah, they all sound simple and logical. And as I'm saying, me trying to define what is motorsport.
So maybe we must go back to Ian Long and say, okay, Ian Long, there's a comment section over here. Put your business plan to make your thought work, and let's see if Anton can implement it.
It's hell of a easy to say, sort this out. Yes. But where's your 3 or 4 point, just a 5-point action plan?
So that's why I'm using the power of what we do. You got the whole comment section, type the whole thing in there. Anton will read it later. If it's implementable, it will go. If it's not, we got carrots.
Yeah.
Gary, I love that. Carrots. So we've got to watch your time, because you've got a previous appointment. And I'm just seeing our production people are like rabbiting on about time. This team of ours, Gary, I need you to sort these guys out, because it's just like... Anton, I want to say thank you very much for sparing your valuable time, and ask you this question. In 3 or 4 months, will you come back and answer some of those questions? And I know you're a straight up and down guy. If you see a turd above a fan, you'll tell it. And will you come back and talk to us?
Absolutely, Colin, anytime. And there's one more thing that I want to say.
You sound like Steve Jobs now. One more thing.
I think we're at the point where we don't talk much about the positive things that's actually coming out of it. This Dakar win... This Dakar win of the Toyota team, in my mind, is on par with the Monaco Grand Prix win. It's on par with the win at Le Mans.
I actually think it's on par with the Springboks winning the World Rugby Cup.
Absolutely, and there's Toyota entered 47 cars in Le Mans before they got a win. It's an amazing result. If you look at the number of cars that competed in Dakar that came from South Africa, it's just nobody knows about it. You're a NASCAR fan. Did you know that every NASCAR wiring harness is made in South Africa?
I did not. Gary, we got to hunt down that factory.
So power brakes, it's been used by virtually every team. I mean, a bunch of guys in Pretoria that I haven't met yet, but there's some amazing stuff that we're just not getting out there, and it's an amazing industry. So I think the scope for growth as motorsport as an industry in South Africa is phenomenal.
It truly is, and all of us, you the fans, you our viewers, it's up to all of us, you, me, Gary, Anton, and the others, to help grow this thing so that it gets bigger and betterer, and then we can have greater and fosterer things that make our lives frickin' happy. Because actually, I love racing.
Now, just before I got to go and do what I normally go and do.
Yes, Gary.
I just want to give a big thumbs up, Tasman Pepper. Go, get that seat, get into that series, and make us proud.
That's on the W Series. Did you see those colours they've launched?
Awesome colours for those
What colour do you
cars.
think she's going for? I reckon that Lumo lime
The
green.
lime green one.
Like,
Okay, yeah.
You know the safety vest one? Get out of my way because here I comes through. Or don't drive into me because here I am.
And then number 2, to the Van der Linde brothers, to Jordan Pepper that are out there. They start testing Blancpain GT
Yeah.
very shortly. Go out there and make it happen. To Wayne Taylor
Yeah.
and his team.
Yeah. Another.
They just won another one.
Yeah.
Okay. Keep us proud. Keep us going. Wayne, when you're next in South Africa, you're on our show, brother. I'm watching you.
Yeah, your people didn't like
Yeah.
our people,
Yeah.
and they couldn't connect, so why don't we just do it directly? Give Gary a call.
And then to the South African riders on the bikes, the Binder boys.
Can
yeah.
Binder not just bin it this time?
He's going to. And Stephen Windal, I know you've got to have a second operation, brother. I hope it works. And we need you back on that bike shortly.
You see how he's
And-
got all the stuff that's coming up?
And to two South Africans going to go and race in AMA in America.
Yeah.
To the names, my mind just went blank. To both of you, I will type it in
What
text.
bikes are they on, Gary?
One is on a 1,000, the other one's on a 300.
Yeah, but what makes?
Yamahas.
I thought they were like Suzuki's, because you know that we've got a soft spot for Suzuki.
No, there is. There's two South Africans.
Not a Kawasaki, because if you don't...
In the British Superbikes riding Suzukis. All the best to you guys. Guys, you know the best way to do this. Watch my page, I'll post it, I'll name them, I'll tag them, I'll do my thing. Colin, I've got to go and do what I do.
Gary, thank you very much for the 70th show. Check the injury. Like the guy sheds blood. He throws
thank you
himself
very
upstairs. Anton Roux, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for sharing your time. Thank you for your honesty and your straightforwardness. And we look forward to seeing you in 3 or 4 months' time. Have a good one and look after the porkers.
Okay, thank you very much. Really appreciate it.
Right, to all of you, thank you so much for watching and enduring 70 frickin' episodes. It's been a blast. We love it. Motorsport just rocks our boat. Thank you. We'll see you next week. Cheers. Out of here.
Fuck, Colin.